Good evening and welcome to Job Center, where we talk about the trends in the market. And today we'll be talking about job hunting and how you can place yourself for the employment market. And with us in studio is the Vice Chancellor of Management University of Africa, Dr. Nicholas Letting. But just before we start our interview, we went to the streets and we gathered some of the views of the young people of what they have to say when it comes to looking for a job. Let's listen in.
Actually, it's not easy. It's not easy to get a job as a young person. Because when you look, for example, the course I'm taking, interior design, many people will want an experienced person, a very experienced person. But as for me, I might have the skill, but when I go for example, for an interview, somebody might ask me, what work have you ever done? What work have you done, or which another work, or what experience do you have? Yeah.
The reason as to why we young people don't get jobs is our mentality. The mentality that we are going to get easy things. We just sit at home, wait for someone to call you, then tells you come for a job. That's not going to happen.
The challenges is we face most in Kenya. This is Kenya, obviously. This corruption and favorism. You must be known before you get that job, or you should. We call it connections. Lazima ukwe na connections ndo upate your job.
Well, as you've heard it there, most young people are saying getting a job is not easy. And to discuss these issues with us once again is the Vice Chancellor of Management University of Africa, Dr. Nicholas Letting. Karibu.
Thank you very much.
Maybe just to get straight into the interview, the young people are saying getting a job is not easy because the employer wants you to have a certain number of skill sets. They want you to have experience. What would you make of this, and what should the young people take into consideration when they are writing their CVs?
Thank you very much. The job market is very competitive at the moment, and every year Kenya produces almost over 40,000 graduates who come from various universities and with different qualifications, and sometimes because of the competition in the market, only a few of them, a percentage of them will get an opportunity to be employed. But one of the things that I've seen with my experience in the private sector and running institutions is that graduates who are looking for jobs should be able to have a total package of a person. The graduates should consider themselves as a product that is out for sale, and therefore should be able to market his or her services competitively like a product is sold. In other words, some of the skill sets that are required are very good interpersonal skills of the person going out for a job market. You need to know how to relate very well with other people. So issues of emotional intelligence, issues of social intelligence.
When you say emotional intelligence, yes, can you break this down for us?
Thank you. Emotional intelligence means that the person should be able to withstand pressures. In other words, you should not cry when you are told something. Maybe start news, you start breaking down and crying. And therefore, for one to be emotionally intelligent, it means they know how to fit into a situation. In other words, they should be able to relate to the senior most people and even junior people in the organization. And some of the other things that are required is communication skills. There are many people who complete university and they may not even be able to write a letter of application for a job. And even when they apply and they have been shortlisted for an interview, the way they respond to interview questions leaves a lot to be desired, because it exposes them to a situation where they don't know how to respond to questions. For example, they can be asked a question like, tell us about yourself. Somebody says, I am the 10th born of maybe 15 children. Nobody's asking you about that. All we need is how have you been trained? You
need to market yourself.
You need to market yourself. In other words, you're saying, what are you bringing on board to this organization? And the applicant or the interviewee should have done enough research about the organization. What is its vision? What is its mission? That person needs to do enough background check about the company that they are working for and why that company is at the moment recruiting, because if it's a new position, then there is a way in which you should package yourself. But if it's an existing position, the applicant should also be able to establish and find out why is that position now vacant after it was filled up. So some of the things that the graduate needs to do is to be able to know how to read widely, understand about the current affairs in the country, even globally, and also understand about the specific profession that they are in. You say somebody is an accountant.
Maybe what are some of the key issues that an employer would be looking for when they are doing an interview with a graduate?
Employers are very keen at looking at somebody who is going to add value to their company. How do they add value? They add value in the way they present themselves, in terms of communication. You expect somebody who is also have good etiquette, somebody who is able to keep time. You don't want to employ somebody who will come to the office late and give an excuse of I live in very far place from Nairobi or whatever office it is. And therefore, employers will be looking at an individual who is able to respond to circumstances and very flexible without being rigid. Because at the moment, the market is very saturated with manpower, but we require the right manpower. We require people with the right skills that can be employed and be deployed to the right place at the right time, whether at night or during the day. Because that kind of skill is quite a number of, from my experience, I see quite a number of people who just need a job and to solve their problems, like personal problems of paying school fees for their sisters and brothers, siblings, and yet they are not coming to provide a solution to the company that they have applied for.
So where is the missing link? Because you're seeing the universities have trained a graduate, you go to the job market. Where is the missing link?
There's been a disconnect between the industry and the university. In other words, what happens is that there is no situation that the industry comes together with the academia to interact and say, this time around we are looking for maybe 2,000 engineers or telecommunication experts. So what the academic team do is to produce people theoretically, but the industry requires people with experience, practical knowledge. Can you imagine a situation where you hire an automotive engineer who does not even know how to drive a vehicle? So you require somebody who is able to understand things. And some of the universities that are doing now is we are focusing on mixing or in blending theory and practice in the universities, so that when a student goes out, he is able to fit into the market faster. But in some other universities, like for example the public universities where many students are there, it is very difficult for a student to even get access to a computer lab. So there may be one computer lab that accommodates 10,000 students. How many students will be able to have that opportunity? But most private universities like ours, we have a small class size where the lecturer and the facilitator is able to interact. We also do invite industry speakers who will come and share their experiences about what is required in the industry and how to navigate the market when the people go out. And so our employability rates in our university is almost 100%, because these are people who are interacting with industry speakers and experts. And
just to barge in, I'm meant to understand that graduates from private institutions are more employable than graduates from public institutions. How true is this? As you also give us your winding thoughts.
What is happening now is that there's a lot of competition in the market. As we speak now, we have 68 universities and colleges in Kenya. Not to mention other universities around the East African community. And so, to distinguish themselves, most private universities have tended to go for smaller, fewer student numbers. After all, you know, the school fees, the university fees is slightly more in the private university, and somebody is paying for it. And so what happens is, these particular institutions in the private sector try to attract them and retain the students, because now if you don't do that, the students run away to other private and public universities. And so my take on this is that private universities have a lot of investments they have made to try to win to themselves students to study in the universities, and also to produce a whole person, somebody who is emotionally intelligent, socially intelligent, and able to communicate effectively and be able to present their views in a manner that is required by the market.
Thank you very much, Daktari.
Thank you.
Well, we've been speaking to Dr. Nicholas Leting, the Vice Chancellor of Management University of Africa, and his message to the young people is that for you to be able to break through the job market, you need to have good interpersonal skills as well as good communication skills, and above all, the confidence. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Job Center. Coming up next is Business News.